So this actually happened a couple of weeks ago, but I found it to be rather humorous and sad at the same time. So I want to talk about it because I don't see very many people talk about it in the what's left of the manosphere. I say what's left because it's not as tight knit as it once was. Belled went back in 2014. 2014 was like the golden year of YouTube for some reason. At least I think fondly of it. Anyhow, so I was perusing TikTok, and I got on my For You page a TikTok from a young lady that made my ears perk up quite a bit. Now, I remember what her TikTok said in particular. I don't remember it verbatim, but I remember a good gist of it. Now, I would play you what she actually said, but I can't find it because she removed the video because she got a lot of flack for it, and you'll see why she got a lot of flack for it because I remember. So the basic gist of her TikTok was her explaining 3 reasons as to why she doesn't date good people, as she says. Okay, so see if I can remember this one correctly. So reason number 1 why she doesn't date good people is because she herself sucks as a person, and she would be mean to the individual that's being good to her, and then she says that she'd feel guilty for being mean, and she doesn't want to feel like a bad person. Reason number 2, as she says in her own words, is that I have an attitude problem and I need an attitude adjustment. I'm not entirely sure what she means by that. I'm pretty sure she was alluding to the fact that she wants to be spanked. Maybe because the 3rd thing she says is, I'm kinky as F word. Those were her 3 reasons. So, me being the troll that I am on TikTok, because that's all I ever do is I just say a bunch of dumb shit to get a reaction. I said, every time you speak, all I hear is, I wish I had a father in my life. And you know what? Let me just show you guys. Let me just show you guys why I felt that. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of montage, okay?
It's okay. You can laugh. It's funny.
Whoever has my voodoo doll, just give him a little hug. Pat him on the back. Tell him everything's gonna be okay. Hell, give him a spank. I don't know. Maybe he might like that. He'll...
Merrily we fall out of line, out of line. I'd fall anywhere with you, I'm by your side. Swinging in the rain, humming melodies. We're not going.
I need a new phone, but my social anxiety is so bad I can't gain the courage to walk into the phone store. I have been sitting in the parking lot for 20 minutes now, trying to think of what the fuck I'm gonna say when I walk in there. So I already made a video responding to this comment, but I deleted it shortly after just because I didn't want to sound like a bitch. But now it's starting to make me mad because other people are commenting on it saying that he's right and that I am less attractive because I have an OnlyFans. Like, I don't understand how that makes me less attractive. Like, I'm just trying to make money, just like everyone else. Just because I have a different way of going about it doesn't mean you're fucking right. Even a bad person. I haven't dated anyone in like 3 years because I've been trying to like fix myself. But y'all are just being so mean.
So I said, every time you speak, all I hear is, I wish I had a dad in my life. And she reacted to that comment with this.
My dad's dead, but thanks for bringing it up. Or are you talking about the one that sexually abused me for 11 years of my life? Or the other one that also sexually abused me? Or the one that's just an asshole, but still sucks? Please, keep your mouth shut.
Now, honestly, I felt really, really bad about the fact that her father passed away. Like, you know, you can't really control that, but it's still a sad thing. But the second thing she says was, well, I was like, you can't clap back by proving my point, nigga. You can't reply to my comment by saying, yes, sir, you are indeed correct. I have had awful fathers in my life. Thus has led me to this path of self-destruction and depression and self-hatred and loathing. Like, you can't say, you're right, you, right? You know what I mean? But then I was sitting here and I was like, dude, how do you get, like, how does that happen twice though? You know what I mean? Like, how does your mom suck so badly at picking people to bring into your life that you get molested not once but twice. It's like there's just like how do you do that, fam? How does that happen? Now I believe that this woman is 100% telling the truth because she has an OnlyFans. The people who oftentimes find themselves on OnlyFans, they oftentimes are individuals who they ain't happy. They ain't happy with their lot in life. We'll just put it to you like that. Maybe I'll have to dissect it in more detail some other time, but I believe her 100%. And so, in seeing this, there's something here that gets me. There's lots of things that get me. There's one, the fact that she grew up without her father. We'll talk about that. We'll discuss that. And two, we'll talk about the oversharing. Because there's a lot of oversharing on TikTok. And I learned a little bit recently that oversharing is actually a huge indication of trauma that a lot of people are dealing with, and so they lash out or they're reaching out in order to get support. So it is also sometimes a little bit of a manipulation tactic, because the person who's doing it recognizes that other people are going to it's going to invoke sympathy usually from other people, and by showing your belly and becoming vulnerable, any person who is you would expect decent or has some degree of mercy would turn off and stop. So sometimes it's also a tactic people use in order to get individuals to stop chastising them or criticizing them, was the word I was originally going to say. So that's why that's why the girl did it, by the way. Like, the girl did it not really because she was thinking critically about the fact that this is her lot in life now, but she was trying to turn herself into a victim or highlight her vulnerability here in order to invoke, you know, the sensible, merciful part of me to stop criticizing her. Except I criticize you out of love, so that shit's not gonna work with me. You're on the path of self-destruction, and I'm still gonna criticize you. You still shouldn't have OnlyFans. There. But more importantly than that, you know, not only just do I recognize what she was doing here, but like I said, there's a lot of oversharing on TikTok. And there's a lot of stuff on TikTok, really. Like, a lot of sexual imagery on TikTok, a lot of oversharing on TikTok, a lot of simping on TikTok. There's just a lot. It's kind of its own three-headed beast to tackle. Now that I think about it, you know, someone should probably talk about that one day. Maybe I will. I don't know. But this is one thing that I've seen a lot from, particularly girls. Like, boys don't really do this. But particularly girls, they talk a lot. They are incredibly over-sexual on TikTok. Now, perhaps males are as well, and I just am not privy to this because I'm not a homosexual. But just from, like, lots of different girls, there's a lot of OnlyFans advertising. Well, there's a lot of OnlyFans advertising everywhere on the internet. But there's a lot of it on TikTok, too. But there's a lot of, like, abundantly, like, sexual material on TikTok. And I made a video about it, actually. Well, not really specifically. I used examples from TikTok in a video called Women... I forget the title, but I was basically talking about how women expressing sexual interest greatly confuses me. Not really so much as in, like, I don't understand it logically, but more so, I don't understand how the woman could think these simultaneous thoughts. Like, I don't understand how cognitive dissonance works in the person's mind itself. Like, usually when I try to understand a concept, I try to get into the person's head and see the world the way they see it. I try to understand, like, how are they perceiving reality. And it's very tough for me to recognize that about women, and how they can reconcile their existence be this, insofar as, like, they can have such an adverse reaction to, like, sexual imagery from males that they don't find attractive, but enjoy it so much from males that they do find attractive. Like, it's not a neutral thing, but it's a negative, kind of downright evil thing in the minds of some of them. A la, you know, like, look at catcalling, you know what I mean? Just being a good example off the top of my head. But I think the thing that I kind of really more wanted to focus on is not just their advertising, but, like, the fact that, you know, there was a comment someone made on that same video I was referring to, and he was 100% right. I had this thought, and he just kind of said it, you know, and he was like, you know, women don't usually have sex, but they use sex. And that was very, very astute person. If you're in the comment section, I'm glad you put that out there, because he's right. There is a lot of, like, using sex, not just for lack of its intended purpose, but more so just as a way to just basically accrue resources. And those resources can simply just be other people's time. It can be their attention. It can be their validation. And more than mostly, it can be money or things, right? So it's not like these girls aren't like experiencing or using these TikToks like for their own sake and its own value towards its own end, as in, I enjoy having sex with individuals, I enjoy how it makes me closer, or even like I enjoy the pleasure it gives me. But it's more so, it's simply mechanical, and they're just really trying to like amass numbers and amass resources and amass wealth. So basically, they are a bunch of like internet prostitutes. There's a lot of internet prostitution going on, like in a softer form. And the more you think about it, the more you recognize that that's what is going on. They are using their sexuality to accrue resources rather than for its own sake. So going back to this one chick, you know, now she does this literally and figuratively, not just with the TikToks I showed you guys. Well, she's more oversharing on the TikToks I've shown you guys, but like in her OnlyFans presence and all of that. You know, this is the type of behavior that occurs when young ladies lack a father, right? Now, this type of stuff isn't really discussed a lot from what I've seen. I used to watch Dr. Phil quite a bit back in the day, so I saw a good bit on Dr. Phil. I learned a good bit on Dr. Phil. I know a lot of people don't like Phil, but Phil McGraw, he's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool guy, from what I remember. But one of the most important things they'd always talk about when young ladies lack the father figure is how they become very hungry for attention. And the reason why is because what your father does, your father has a very important role in your life. It's not simply his job is to like protect you and accrue resources and whatnot for you, you know, and like give you a stable environment. Sure. Yes, 100%. But that's kind of what child support really looks at or takes care of or is the focus of. And there's a reason why I'm bringing up child support specifically, you know, especially when you refer to like single mother homes and all of that and that jazz. It's because what your father really does is he grants you like his legacy, okay? And his legacy, it's not necessarily him like bequeathing you the ancient sword Excalibur, you know what I'm saying? But it's more like him giving you a sense of identity and validating what your skills and abilities can be. If you ever hung out with a smaller child, like a niece or a nephew, or even like your younger brother, you'll notice what they do a lot of the times is they'll do some type of activity, and then they'll look for you to tell them whether it was good or not, to validate them, to say, yeah, that was a good job, or great job, you did well. Right? And that's what all human beings are searching for. Now, particularly with males, because males are the leader, they are, in a sense, one of the most important unit in the family unit. I mean, if he's the protector, right? He's the resource provider. Without that link, without that critical need, you know, what do you have left? You've got a ship without a captain, right? So in a lot of ways, he is pretty much, if he's not the most important, he's definitely got, you know, the most responsibility. If you don't like the word important, he's definitely got the most responsibility. When you look at that and you remove him from there, the child cannot receive the validation they need to recognize what their skills and abilities are. But you see, what happens with young ladies, because nothing else was ever validated in them, just being a human grants you +5 pattern recognition. You know, just on your character sheet, you just have, you know, +10 can recognize how the world works to some capacity, right? No matter how delusional you are as a woman, you can recognize something very simple, and that is other males outside of you, they want you. And why do they want you? Because they're sexually attracted to you. Oh, these guys are willing to give me things because they're sexually attracted to me? Okay. How about I do that then? How about I obtain those resources? So it's a very easy path to recognize and see. You don't really have to be a super genius to figure this out as a woman. And a lot of them aren't smart people. Like, I would just be frank. Like, a lot of women who they're not intelligent people who find themselves to OnlyFans. I know some people might think, oh, well, they secured a bag, so they have to be No, being shameless does not take. It doesn't take any degree of intelligence to recognize A plus B, you know, A squared plus B squared equals C squared, you know, the Pythagorean theorem. It's like, people are willing to give me money. I have a butthole and a fat ass. I'll show people. You're not a super genius for that. You're just not. There's no degree of respect or critical thought here. But the thing is, what gets a lot of these women there, and particularly what gets a lot of them stuck in this victim, and I think the victim mentality is another thing too, or like or displaying their vulnerability is also another very important thing too for their seeking of validation. Is because they recognize that anyone that has, dare I would say, a soul or some degree of like moral compunction is not going to harshly back down or criticize someone that turns themselves into a victim. And so, like, another thing that's really important about like not having your dad in your life is oftentimes not really having a good, strong degree of like consequences. Like, your dad also is supposed to kind of teach you, you know, quid pro quo, action, reaction. You do one thing, you get one type of reaction back. Usually with him, you know, you've probably heard the old Chris Rock joke, and whenever Chris got in trouble and everybody hates Chris, his mom would always be like, I'm going to tell your dad. And your dad is the one that disciplines you and tells you, you know, wrong from right. You know, but also there is a healthier respect. I say healthier, but there's more of a respect from your dad than you get from your mom, because not only is your dad oftentimes more of like a physically imposing threat, and just as an animal we can recognize, you know, mass equals strength usually, or like, you know, more intimidating people are bigger, and your mom really isn't. Like, no matter how much your mom disciplines you, especially as a male, like, you're gonna get bigger than her. And as a woman, like, you know, you're not really gonna think too hard of her like as a physical threat. You know, your dad kind of always invokes that in you, and whether and he probably isn't going to be, hopefully you wouldn't think that he would be abusive, but there is still that presence and that understanding that like there's a limit to what you can do. And that's what his presence there does. That's what a physically imposing person does there, is they indicate there's a point you can't cross. Now, when you don't have that, especially as a young lady, you don't learn the concept of a cap. You don't understand the concept of limitations. So this is why they can be so shameless. This is why they can overshare so much, because they don't recognize that consequence. Now, you also have to recognize as well that when you don't have a father in your life, you know, they can't really protect you from the awful craptastic men that do exist. Like, I mean, for as much as I sing the praises of males, as much as I try to give men some degree of good self-esteem and try to help them, you know, get out of their self-loathing, let's not pretend that evil people be not a force in this world. 100%, of course. You know, and your father is supposed to protect you from those evil people. Whether it be physically, he's supposed to keep you safe. That's one thing, you know, in our modern society. Not necessarily so much, although it's still important to be able to have that capacity, but also just more as like mentally and emotionally giving you these tools to understand and recognize bad relationships and bad situations to try to help you like avoid them as a young lady, you know. And I'm particularly talking about young ladies in this video because, you know, that's my experience. That's what my joke came from, which even was only kind of half of a joke when I be honest. But, you know, young males, they also do suffer lots of negative effects from a lack of a father in their life as well. So don't think that like dudes just are okay. Like they're not. You know, males just kind of express the lack of having a father a lot differently than what females do. And females particularly, what happens with a lot of women in particular is they fall back to their sex appeal only because it's an ingrained ability that doesn't need to be cultivated, you know. And so because it doesn't really need to be cultivated, or they don't really need to do anything apart from be, it's cheap, it's easy, it's easily accessible, and they get a lot of it. It's just as far as just economics go. Like, if you want to look at it as just like as a marketplace itself, cheap, easy labor that grants you a huge amount of profit, you know, what business owner wouldn't invoke it? What business owner would not do that? Of course they would. Like, reasonably, it makes perfect sense in any logical point of view. But of course, there'd be numerous problems there, right? There's numerous issues. And one of those numerous issues I feel is a huge lack of intimacy, right? So now, when I refer to like intimacy, I'm kind of more referring to like a trust or like a special type of bond that only a few people share with each other. It's an experience that only a couple of people share with one another, right? And so the weight of intimacy is that experience is respected by the two people. Everyone external to that, it no really matter, right? You know, like it no really matter to everyone outside of that, right? You know, because they're either strangers or they're just not that close. They're not really close friends. But having an intimate relationship, like between a male and a female, you know, the weight in your sexual experience is not that you're the only two people in the world that ever had sex, but like you're the only two people in the world that had sex with each other. And that gives it weight, that gives it value, not just in terms of, you know, the diminishing law of marginal value, as far as, again, we want to invoke economics. But as far as just the literal experience of being vulnerable with another human being, is something that makes you close. I mean, once again, literally holding hands with someone produces oxytocin that bonds you to them. Hugging them does the same thing. Sex 100% does that. Like, literally, it does it more than the two other activities I say, or I guess actions, not really activities. But not only just that, but you also have to keep in mind that, again, like, literally, it's physically the closest thing you can be with someone. So it's like, so when I refer to like intimacy, I'm really more talking about just like the bonds or the special relationships or experiences you can have with few people. And it doesn't just necessarily have to be sex, but we are talking about it like in a sexual context of like when women become these thoughts, right? Because what happens is, again, they never recognize the importance of having limitations, and intimacy in its nature is a limitation. Like, monogamy in its nature is a limitation. I can no longer explore and do all these different things, all these different people, because now I'm with you. But they didn't grasp that concept, and so that's how they're really free and open in being an OnlyFans. Now the problem is, for them in particular and their boyfriends, is the intimacy that was once there is shattered. It's broken because they never learned it, they never understood it, or I think some of them are just shameless and they don't care. And losing that lack of intimacy loses the weight and the value of what that relationship is, which makes it easier for these people to break away and to leave. Now, to a lot of people who don't like having their feelings hurt, to a lot of people who don't really care too much about other people's feelings, that's totally fine. If you like, I'm not bonded to this person, I can just leave. It's not intimate, I don't care, whatever. The problem is the ultimate purpose of a male-female relationship, which cannot happen in same-sex relationships. Oh, I just hurt people's feelings there. Is you make people. That's the ultimate goal, is to make more people. And if you don't care, if you're not bonded to the parent of your child, it makes it easier for you to leave and escape. And then what happens? The cycle continues. And so this is why all this shit is important. My friends, as much as I was being a dickhead to the girl, this is why I'm trying to communicate that this stuff is actually really important. It's because these girls don't exist in a vacuum. They don't. They don't exist in a vacuum. Oftentimes, it's not just so much that they are self-destroying themselves and that be their own prerogative. It's the fact that because a lot of them have the capacity to make people, and because they're so irresponsible and just sometimes just downright stupid, they can then bring their own children into the world, and then they have to suffer when otherwise they really didn't have to. And this young lady's mom just made this girl suffer, not once but twice. She had two people who abused her. I believe her 100%. I do 100%. I believe her. She's on OnlyFans. She's very comfortable exposing herself and being naked. Like you don't get to that point without something happening, fam. Like, usually, it's not always. Usually, you don't get to that point just on a Friday afternoon. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna spread my butt cheeks on here. Usually, there's some people. Usually, okay. So I believe her, and it's like, and again, like she in herself is she's both the best example of this in both ways. One, she lost her father, and her mom, I guess, I don't know the full context or story of her, but she dates two men that sexually abuse her. It's like, there you go. She didn't have a father in her life, so she didn't have a man to protect her from two evil people who came and hurt her. Is right there. It's textbook. I'm pretty sure, and I said it kind of like a dick, but I'm pretty sure she wished she had her dad in her life to keep her safe there. It may be a harsh thing to say, but and then she herself, being an individual who says she can't date good people anymore. Now again, your father for young ladies, and same thing for your mom for males, but your parent is supposed to be like your guide for your relationship. Like, whether or not you want them to or not, a lot of the times they are going to influence the type of people that you're going to date. Like, it's unfortunate, but it'd be true, because like, they are your guide. They are your example of like what a male-female relationship is. Like, that's what you see, you experience every day with them. You know, even as much as you might watch 90210, as much as you might watch Vampire Diaries, you know what I mean? As much as you might watch Degrassi, which you primarily see apart from a 30-minute show is your mom and your dad. And if he's not there, what does that tell you about male, female? That males don't stay with women and that they leave. And lots of girls find themselves doing what? Dating males who use them, just have sex with them, and leave and don't care and don't invest. Why? Because their father was not there. They didn't recognize, and they can't understand, they cannot conceive of a world where there is goodness and there are steadfast people who will stay and have relationships with you. Again, because they never saw that, they never experienced that, because their dad's not in their life. Now, like I said, here's the thing. I've noticed, like, this topic isn't really broached very often in the manosphere, and I think it sucks because it really does highlight, like, just how important men are to their children, but in particular, like, young ladies. It really does. And I think there's way too much highlighting on just kind of like accepting the destruction of male-female relationships rather than like repairing it or like seeing more value in yourself as a man. There is a lot more value in what you are as a man beyond just something that can shoot your load inside of a young lady. There really is. And I want young men who, if you walk out this video as a young man, I kind of want you to walk out and like understand, like, you are important. You do have value. And you may not have children now, but you might have children in the future. And you have to recognize you are important and they do need you. Like, there is weight there. And that should 100% be respected. But also, I kind of wanted to highlight the fact that, like, not having your dad for a lot of young ladies is the path to this, to what she is now currently. And, you know, it's just, it's kind of sad. You know, it's a little sad. She is a cute girl. Yeah. So, with that being said, I certainly hope you guys got something out of today's video. And if you did, man, you know, go and click the like button. Shoot, go and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.